I want to do a segment just kind of debunking not a specific right-wing talking point, but a right-wing myth that stretches across multiple talking points. And that is that Democratic, and by that I mean the Democratic Party's leadership and governing leads to bad, dirty, broken, rundown realities for those under it. And the way I want to do that is look at just a few indicators. There's so many we could go through, but just for the purposes of this video, a few indicators, and then dive into a little bit of discussion after that make it so clear that while there's so many reasons why states and communities are the way that they are, what I'm about to show you at least debunks the idea that clear and simply the Democratic Party ruins communities. That's just not the case, as you'll see in comparisons between the reality of different states on the ground in the United States of America. So, starting with poverty, what are the 10 most impoverished states in the United States? Mississippi, Louisiana, New Mexico, West Virginia, Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and South Carolina. You tell me, those look like blue bastions or very red states? Yes, very red states. Now, I want to say again before we move on to education, I'm not even saying that what we're doing here, gives you an answer for exactly what caused what. This is not a causation discussion necessarily. Now, some pretty strong trends here, and I would argue the Democratic Party 100% does lead to better outcomes for those who benefit and are impacted by their policies. But for me to explain or even dive into, do the research to understand all the reasons why poverty numbers, poverty rates, and education systems are better and worse in certain places, that would be a much longer and more nuanced discussion. And sometimes in certain places, Republican policies, at least the states are doing perfectly fine, and that's absolutely easy to admit. But again, I want to restate, do not keep being lied to, as I hope you guys don't allow, by people who want to pretend that these horrible liberals giving all your money to those who are freeloading off the government causes our communities to be poor and run down, because those issues that they like to attach to the Democratic Party are much worse in states run by Republicans. Here's the 10 worst U.S. states for education from the World Atlas: New Mexico, Louisiana, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, West Virginia, Nevada, Arizona, Arkansas, and Ohio. So you can see there very, very clearly a trend as well towards the Republican Party's governing and presence in those states. And then you move on to crime. They like to pretend that Democrats are super, super easy on crime. That causes all these horrible criminals to be running around. Well, top 10 states with the highest murder rate. And the last one, I hope I said the worst education systems. Yeah, that was clear. I didn't accidentally say the best, hopefully. But yeah, the worst. And then here again, the highest murder rate: Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Missouri, Arkansas, South Carolina, Tennessee, Maryland, Illinois, New Mexico. Again, disproportionately red states. Then you move on, if you want to look specifically at just the crime rate. And this is where you get more diversity. Still more red than blue, but this is a more diverse look. While murder rates are more heavily Republican states, this is a little bit more mixed up. District of Columbia, New Mexico, Louisiana, Colorado, South Carolina, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Washington, Tennessee, and Oregon. But what's interesting is if you do keep focusing on crime rates, it's clear that the lowest crime rates are very clearly blue states: Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, and New Jersey. So again, some of these discussions are a chicken or the egg effect, right? Where is it people who deal with these particular problems are more inclined to vote for the Republican Party, or people who vote for the Republican Party cause these things to be the reality in their state? And it's a little bit of both, but it's also clear that if you properly invest in communities that need help, if you have an understanding that certain programs facilitated by the government can pull people out of poverty and help those in need and promote better education and all of that, you will have better outcomes. And so I think on a federal level, we should recognize that. And the other thing I want to say in relation to this, I was having a conversation with someone recently, And this person's big concern was, I don't want my tax dollars being taken away to be given to somebody else. I worked hard for my money. It shouldn't go towards somebody else. And I empathize with the feeling of, gosh, you work really hard and then you see a lot of your money go away, and you understand that that's not all going right back to you, right? In many instances, you may not even be getting dollar for dollar as much in government programs as you feel like you pay in taxes, whatever it might be. And I empathize with that. But I would ask you to kind of flip your framing on it a little bit and understand that actually, if you really think about it this way, we have a society and the government is the entity we've set up to kind of manage that society. And what we do is we all collectively put some of our own hard-earned money into this system so that we're able to even do the things that we require. And an example is, let's say you're thinking, okay, I work hard at my job and I work in an office and I grind every day. Why are you taking my money? Well, think about, you grew up in a community that was funded by tax dollars by a bunch of people that allowed you to get an education, that allowed you to drive on roads to that education, that allowed you to be protected by the police that did so while you were getting that education in a good policing situation. And then you moved on, you went, whatever you did, and then you got your job and you were enabled to even have the job that you're now working hard at and getting that money that's being taxed through the taxation of others. We all benefit from the taxation of others. And so if we think that way, allow proper investment in our communities, we all will benefit. And you think as well, why is it that the crime, the murder rates are so high in those states? And why is it the education system and poverty in these states? One of the ways you have to think about it is later, at some point, you're going to have to deal with these things. And so if you put it off because you don't want to invest now, then later you're going to have to be dealing with higher crime rates. You're going to have to be dealing with more people on the streets who don't have homes. You're going to be dealing with more people in poverty. And that will not make your reality as a hardworking American as good as it could be. But if we all collectively put enough stake in our system, we make all of our communities better and we all benefit from it. So I just want to get people away from the idea that it's your money being taken away to give to someone else. It's more so our money going towards us, right? And we all benefit from that, really, because we better educate those individuals. They're less likely to get into crime. They're more likely to then contribute more money back to our system because they're able to get better jobs. We invest better in impoverished communities. Crime rates will be able to go down, and on and on and on it goes. And your life as that tax-paying American gets better. So hopefully that's kind of an interesting way to think about it. And I do think the mindset of proper investment in our communities as a Democratic Party is more willing to do than the Republican. It shows in the results and statistics that we just looked at.